Great. How are you guys doing? Great. Good tech connect so far? It's great. Take the mic. I'm sorry. Right? That's all right. We're all good. Cool. Well, I want to welcome you guys for today's panel, the DEI Stack, Building Trust and the Foundational Layers for Agents. My name is Adam Mosdy, and I'm head of community for the Akash Network. And very briefly, for those unfamiliar, it's a decentralized cloud marketplace for cloud compute. You need access to GPU, come check it out. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. Grab me when you talk about Akash Network, all the ankle light. Today, we're diving into one of the most exciting and perhaps most critical frontiers in decentralized AI. How do we build trust in the stack that underpins on-chain agents? For years, blockchains have given us transparent, verifiable systems for recording and enforcing human decisions. But with the rise of AI agents, autonomous self-improving entities that can interact on-chain, we're now entering an era where machines can make, verify, and execute decisions independently. This shift raises a number of big questions, and luckily for us, we've assembled a top-notch group here to talk of builders and thinkers to talk all about this and talk about what they're working on and much, much more. I want to introduce our panelists. First up, I want to introduce Shaw, founder of Eliza Labs. And last time we talked, I think my intro question was, you got your introduction to blockchain through gaming, but I don't want to talk about that. What I did realize was I couldn't find any other information about you online, like hobbies, interests. Yeah, nothing. I trust me.
Yeah, to be able.
I used all sorts of data.
So we really just do agents.
Yeah, there was a lot of that, but I was like, I'm sure he has more. So I'm going to ask you kind of a get to know you question, if that's okay. We need it to be at your most creative or productive. What specific type of environment, sound, lighting, location do you actively seek out?
Oh, well, I actually do a lot of like more of the artistic visual side stuff, and I like I don't know, I listen to a lot of grinds and like I don't know a lot of music. But I tend to if I'm coding, I need stuff that doesn't have lyrics. I just like lock in like just the cheesiest electronic bullshit. And now I just use Suno. I stream a lot. I was getting banned a lot from like YouTube or whatever, so I just use AI music. Doesn't and it's like hard electronic, and then I just like blast that in headphones and code, and I do it. I will do that for like 14 or 16 hours straight. That's my vibe. I like that.
That's a good vibe. Do you ever listen to those AI like made up music from like modern day songs that they were in like the 1950s soul vibe? Do you ever listen to those tales? That's pretty cool. There's some good ones of 50 Cent, which is like a decent over there for jazz and see, keep marking on. Oh, cool. Thank you, Sean. I feel like I know you a little bit more. I appreciate that. Next up, we have David, director of Deborah Light Cloud, and I read that you as well are always listening to music, and that you always have it on even when you're working. So I wanted to ask, what was the last musician or artist you would see concert, and then what music do you generally listen to when you're working?
I'm trying to think. It's been a while. I think I saw Gwen Stefani actually.
Oh, all right.
That was my wife likes her. I like listening to The Weeknd with. Yeah.
Weekend's good, right? It's just like fun and upbeat music. That's good. Right on. I got to know you a little bit better. I appreciate that. Next up, we have Holly McKinley, CEO of File. Say for me, I apologize.
Phil Oz, the little part of the Fastly ecosystem. So if you heard Fileboy, that's what I work on.
Yes, thank you. I apologize. I'm terrible at stuff. And one interesting fact I learned about you is I read that you were team captain for Stanford when you were on the robotics team, and you were it was called Team 949. Is that right?
So 949 was actually in high school, but I did do first robotics, guilty. I was a robotics nerd. Stanford, we did briefly have, but we were more mentoring robotics teams in high schools. But yeah, we actually ended up going to state. We went to our state competition, and then we went all the way to Florida and competed with these giant 6-foot tall robotics. My number one contribution was filing all of the really sharp edges off of the robot so that it didn't cut anyone. Hand programming the autonomous mode. It's really fun.
Wow, that's pretty cool. And you were the robotics nerds out there? And all right, you guys drop connect. Oh, we got a couple. Excellent. Love that. Thank you for that. Next up, there's actually a switch in the panelists, so I created a separate question for you. Oh, that's okay. If you could if you could instantly absorb one skill or piece of knowledge from a character in a book or a movie, you ready? I want that. What would it be, and how would you use it every day?
Okay, that's a good question. Probably the ability to manifest things into reality. So I guess you could use The Secret as a book, but basically any character who has the ability to think something and have it actually manifest, I think that's something that I would like to master that skill in manifestation.
I would love that for coffee. I'm a big coffee guy. I just love cappuccino at all times. I appreciate that. Thank you. And finally, we have Marco, head of AI at Oasis. And I did find a lot of information. You're an open book at Light, so I don't know, you might need to close up your internet usage. I saw that you're interested in cycling, science fiction, and music, so I combined all three of your interests into one question, which I think is a fun one. If you could take a cycling trip through a sci-fi world, what kind of soundtrack would you bring along, and which universe would you choose? Yeah, you got that? That's a big one.
It should be an Asimov world with an AI generated song on Suno.
Oh, snaps. We need snaps for that? I looked at this once. That's good off the cuff. Well, thank you for that. I appreciate it. We could talk about backgrounds all day, but we're here to talk about the DAI stack. So I want to jump right into our questions. Maybe starting over here with the market, we can kind of go down the line. I just want to kind of level set, so we'll start with definitions. When we talk about the DAI stack, what do we actually mean? What are the foundational layers required to support autonomous on-chain agents?
Quick curious to hear how we differentiate, but for me it's data, models, infra, and tooling, and then you have the actual hosting, which is compute, can be cloud, can be Akash, whatever. I think those are for me the essential steps.
Yeah, so from the zero G perspective, we did re-architect the entire tech stack to support AI agents and autonomous AI agents. So we started actually on the data availability side to up level things. You see Eigen is here as well, so they kind of pioneered it. And then we worked on decentralized storage, so we think that's also an important component. And then we have decentralized compute, and this is for decentralized inferencing and fine-tuning and data verification and community training of AI models. And then we bundle the Ether operating system and put it on a chain. And so we consider the blockchain as part of decentralized AI as well. And our L1, which is EVM compatible, is hyper optimized for AI solutions. And this higher operating system works the best on our chain. So we did it from the ground up. And actually we focus on more modular approach where anybody who's building AI applications on any chain can tap into one for all of the sources or the infrastructure that we built. And then if they want the best performance, they could just come to our chain and everything is there. Go no.
Super agree that decentralized storage starts at the base. Not to show like
What about that?
who would have thought Alpine thinks that decentralized storage is important. But then building on from there, then you have the model layer, you have the compute layer, and you have the settlement or payment layer. It's really important that you connect all of those together and they were all verifiable on chain, because if you don't have that cross connection, you can end up with someone switching out the data under you through model and then creating, falsifying the results. If you aren't paying on chain for verifiable outputs, then you might be paying for work that isn't being done, or autonomous agents might not get paid for the work that they do. And so that kind of layering of the stack, where you go from storage, bottles, compute, and then on-chain payments, are kind of the four layers I've described.
Obviously, lots of infrastructure people who have covered all of this stuff. I think we kind of understand like there is a whole stack of things that you can do. I tend to think of AI agents and that side into the wall as being like basically just synthetic users. They're users. They use the world the way users do. And I try and apply like, well, is this good for users? Is decentralized file storage good for users? I think so. Would a decentralized social media platform be good for users? Well, I wouldn't have been banned from it. That would be pretty nice. Scott, yeah. Well, yeah. Well, they just hate me for other reasons because they're not particularly fond of the crypto.
Still love you.
Yeah, they just can't. We love yeah. But so I think that there's like there are obvious things like, well, we should. It would be nice if I had options other than ChatGPT for the models that I choose, and I could buy those in a really cheap way. It would be cool if there was like a marketplace of GPUs that are just sitting around and I could like pay someone to utilize them and stuff like you cost or something like that. So I think that all that is like very valuable to the world I want to live in, period. Like we can say, yeah, cool, this would be great with I love AI, I love agents, but also like I want decentralization for like I've felt the pain of this myself. Like I need to live in that world. So yeah, I would just represent that and say like in 2025 we're at the application layer where AI is really transforming the average person's life. is application layer. Is like, oh, the interface is suddenly different, where I can press a button, Figma makes me the whole freaking design or whatever it is. And so I think we're still figuring out in crypto like how to monetize the rest of the stack. Like how does a hyperbolith or a zero G or somebody who like actually bring I probably like a lot of Web2 people into this and say, oh, this is just a better way to do it. And that's probably comes down to just value proposition, USB and stuff. So.
I think that there's like a handful of like different stacks. That you have the core topology stack, which I guess would be like the data models, hosting, and infra. But you also have like the actual what we're seeing now, all these different standards and protocols that come around that enable everyone to come to an agreement on doing a certain thing. So A2A for communication, MCP for tool calling and context, AP2 for payments, Expert2 was more about the kind of like a file computation than for payments. So you have like this stack technologies. You also now have these core primitives that everyone can kind of all come to an agreement on and allow the agents to actually like work as one. So I think that's pretty important. And then you have the trustless stack, I think, right? So you have trustlessness with 8004 with being able to have identity registry and stuff like that. And then you also have, obviously, with Export2 payments, but also you start thinking about how can you have verifiable runtimes, how can you have verifiable inference. I think you spoke a little bit to that. So I think there's like different stacks, and it's kind of now we're starting to see a lot of people come to an agreement for like what this stuff looks like. You build products, companies around them, better apps.
I made a note of just the term synthetic users that Shaw uses. Is that a term that's like, did you just coin that right now? I just like that.
I'm not calling it wash trading. Let's...
Fair. Okay. Well, we'll come back to that maybe if we have time. So we're kind of talking about agent infrastructure, right? So I want to kind of pose a question for you guys. Per Cisco Systems AI Readiness Index, I know everyone's on Cisco Systems AI Readiness Index regularly, but it's just released. I thought it was interesting. 83% of organizations plan to deploy AI agents, and nearly 40% of them expect to work alongside employees within a year. But only 50% of these same organizations describe their networks as both flexible and adaptable enough to scaling. So question for you guys is, when such a large share of enterprises plan to deploy agents, but very few feel their infrastructure is ready, what does that imply about the gap in the stack, particularly for decentralized systems where infrastructure is inherently different?
I could pose the correct question actually to the audience. Like, who here has deployed an agent? Keep your hands out. Is your agent useful? Okay, for way more than I expected, because most of the ones I use, they're just fun trying out the stacks, trying out different tooling. So I don't think there's a gap actually in the stack. There's a gap in finding good use cases for those agents and getting their production ready. Specifically now it's time to go like cross verticals finally. Everyone was just like waiting for better AI capabilities, but I think we're there. Like it's really the time to go choose your vertical and just focus on them and build a niche agent that solves a problem specifically there. But I mean, it's been a while since I worked with corporates or in the corporate, so I'm not surprised that they are lacking the infra for actual corporate-wide adoption, but the stack is there. I think it's just time to go versatile.
Yeah, maybe I can provide some context. I have deep strategic partnerships at Zero G, so I'm fortunate to speak to enterprises that are looking to explore decentralized AI. I won't even say enter it, just explore it. And so they asked us, they say, hey, look, Zero G says you can do, decentralized storage, compute, training, all these cool things. Right now, our problem, for example, a hedge fund in New York, they can't actually use ChatGPT in the hedge fund for trade operations for multiple reasons. One is the data, right? They have proprietary data that they're putting into these models. And if that's held at OpenAI or any centralized entity, there's chances of leaks, there's chances that OpenAI could counterfeit them. There could be a lot of issues. There could be issues in the models itself, right? So for example, there could be malicious data injection. There could be a counterparty that's trying to take down this hedge fund, and all you have to do is a simple data poisoning attack. And so then they come to Zero G and they say, can you solve these things for us? And we say, yeah, we're in the process of getting these technologies upscaled enough so that the hedge fund in New York can actually use decentralized AI. And so I think the whole prediction, 50% of usage of AI agents in the enterprise side, Web2, is only converting to 15%. Personally, I'm so optimistic. I think that's going to continue going up, but it has to do with the fact that decentralized model training and ownership of the data is still the big gap. The venture funds do not trust Web3 yet, and they definitely don't trust Web2. So they're in the middle, and they're saying, why don't we just create it ourselves? And so these funds are like, we have resources. We're just going to create our own custom LLM. We're going to have our own data server physically in our building, and we're going to gap it. And the access points are very guarded, and we're just going to do that. We use TDEs or CK. Most of them are actually different CK. They're encrypting the data, and they're saying no one else can have access to this data. It's a big trust component, right? Like, so 0G is on the frontier of this. Like, we have to convince these enterprises, hey, guys, trust us. We're decentralized, so you can trust not us, but you trust the decentralization mechanism. And so there is a knowledge gap, but there's also a trust gap. And that's kind of what we're trying to solve.
Yeah, I super agree on the trust issue is core here, and that the trust ask from centralized cloud is not congruent. Like many of these large scale enterprises, that I can't give all my data to Amazon. They're gonna come, they're gonna undercut me. Like I'm gonna lose my edge, and this is an opportunity for everyone in this room who's starting to build decentralized agents and already knows blockchain and already knows the power of content address data, of on-chain proofs of verifiability. Like we have the skills that enable those folks to move off of a centralized model into a decentralized model where no central party is storing all of your data or is aggregating all of your compute and actively running their model, your model, inside their cloud with their control and their keys, not your keys, not your calls. And so moving into a decentralized network where, on-chain proofs, you can have trustless agents that you can audit and verify how they're behaving. And that goes all the way down to the data layer. If you don't trust the data by auditing and building that trust with on-chain proofs, then you have no idea what the model is going to do and perform in the real world. And you can't build that trust feedback loop.
I want to talk to these Web2 people because the ones I talk to, they don't mind. Like they are fine with a Microsoft Azure hosted version of GPT. They just need someone to sue. Like I think this trust problem and verifiability thing, it's a very much a crypto or blockchain thing because we live in a world where you utilize decentralized compute and that's really important. But if I use compute from Microsoft, it's fine. Like I can sue them if something goes wrong. Like I trust that to be the protector of my data and privacy. At least that's my experience with Web2 developers.
I hear you. That definitely is true in some domains. Some of the folks that we've been talking to that are maybe outside the US and are starting to feel the overhead of like, well, maybe in the past I could have sued Microsoft, but now what's happening in the US? What does it mean that all of these, Fortune 500 CEOs are going and forming these relationships at a White House level that maybe means that, my business in UAE or my business in Germany or, that is now subject to not just putting trust in a specific centralized cloud enterprise that might compete with me, but also sovereign nation state conflicts that maybe I don't want to expose my data and my business relationships to that level of existential risk at the nation level.
I kind of want to keep up. We can go to you, Sean, on this, but I want to talk. You kind of led into one of the questions I was going to ask for the trust challenge, what we're calling it. And given that enterprise leaders are seemingly skeptical of autonomous ecosystems, how much of this trust challenge is technical, identity, reputation, verification, data, rather than user psychology? I've seen the movie Terminator, AI scary. Let's not get involved with that. What must be built into the foundational stack of decentralized agents so we can have broader acceptance?
Well, if I'm building a centralized agent for I'm a Web2 corporation, I'm going to build a web agent, then my problems are just like agentic problems. Like they're very mundane. Like, wow, it's how do I get this agent to connect to the system and authenticate and like be in there, get access to the right stuff and like fill its context with the right stuff. I think decentralized agents have a whole other set of problems. I mean, the nice thing about, once it's authenticated in my thing, I just don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff. So on this point, on the last question really quick, I think that we have to bifurcate. There's definitely the trust thing around the models. It's really expensive to borrow to host models. We're talking, serve a Claude Opus or a GPT-5 is you need 128 GPUs running for one user every single time you run the day one of that. I was spending 64, but it's quite a lot. That's $1 million in hardware for one user. And so they have, many, many millions of dollars of the hardware. And so like a lot of companies are just hiring them to either like do a co-location of a ride, or they're just saying like, hey, we're going to do an encrypted thing. And like OpenAI and Claude, they are in the business of encrypted compute now as well. Like we should not think that they're not obviously thinking about this, talking to the same people we are. And I think the decentralized argument is not just like security and models and stuff, but it's actually like, I think more about the world we want to live in. I think there will come a time when being able to run like an Opus level GPU like machine is something that one of us could probably do. Maybe like a $25,000 like tiny Fort box, maybe not like a full consumer, but at least it's like tenable. It's still like just not possible for most of us right now. Most of the models we use are much smaller. Even in like we're using long models, which are like 70 billion parameters, or now like a 400 billion parameter model. But that's still like a fraction of what the guys are working on in the big labs. So we just have to be aware of that. As far as like I actually believe that AI is capable of doing just about anything you got data for. I'd say that in terms of intelligence, it's more or less a solved problem. That's a data engineering problem. The reason that agents suck at things is because we don't have the data enough. There is an endless Reddit that will tell you like a baking recipe or like my thoughts on the Roman Empire, but there's not a step-to-step. No, there's nowhere in the world do you get a step-by-step instructions on how I do my job or your job or your job or anyone's job. Very few jobs are actually systematized and itemized out action by action. And so what we have to do is we have to create environments where we can get the agents to like struggle less through with the data ability that they have and then improve from there until they're actually good at it. So a lot of what we're doing, a lot of people are doing this is using like a teacher model, like an Obis, and then you train something and then you use that as data to then train a smaller model. There's a very popular approach now. It's like student teacher, and they have this thing called GRPO, which was what BC came out with, which allows us to like let the agent try stuff and then rank how well it did and then train from there, actually improve on that. So that's like it's a data problem. The way we're solving this is by creating toy versions of things we think are important and then running agents through that and improving them. I think this is very common. Your options now are either like build a simulation or to hire experts and pay them a lot of money. Most of the big companies are doing both at the same time. It's very popular for both things. So into decentralized agents, the problems that we have are like, well, how does my agent know how to trust you? If I just like go through all my data and just process it for me, I don't have to worry about like, is this person lying to you? It's scamming you. But that's like a very common problem for us all the time. So we have like trust and verify. I think we just don't really understand this stuff very well yet. At Eliza, our approach is to build simulations and see how it goes and like build games and things that people can try. We're about to release something and we'll announce that pretty soon. But the idea there is very much around like build social simulations, encourage people to try to hack it, scam it, break it, and use that information to try and actually build more robust systems until we don't have something into when they let real life stuff. That's kind of
Do you guys do a lot of like red team, blue team stuff?
we're just getting into this. And so we just started doing like continuous reinforcement learning. Reinforcement learning used to be really hard. Now it's relatively easy. You have like an LLM as a judge, so you can have a model as trained and also judge itself. And then kind of rank up and improve. And we were just like, okay, well, let's just have it improve. But then we realized that like improving towards what in a social game. So now it's like, okay, well, let's start to improve the red teaming. Like this agent's just trying to be the best possible scam. This agent's just trying to be the best possible blue team moderator. And we're just starting to get into that kind of thing. It's very complicated. Reinforcement learning is very hard.
I don't know.
Could you repeat the original question?
Yeah, we would all earlier. I appreciate it. Thank you. So we were talking about the trust challenge. We were talking about infrastructure. I guess we could kind of keep with the trust challenge idea. Are enterprises more afraid to kind of get involved with agents because it's user psychology? Like I mentioned, oh, I've seen the movie The Terminator, AI's gonna kill me. Or is it just the data reliability, safety features, whatever it might be?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, agents aren't as mature as they will be in a couple of years, so that's one aspect of it. Like, everyone realizes the potential, but we haven't seen a ton of, like, very high-value agents, other than, like, coding agents are obviously an incredible public market fit. I would, like, with high-frequency trading companies and big finance companies, big tech companies, you kind of have to think about where these people are coming from. They have, like, one job, right? They don't want to get fired. They don't want to fuck something up. And if you experiment with like some random crypto company that is promising to do like everything and maybe solve world hunger and all these things, because like that's basically the marketing behind all this, every crypto company at this point. And then you open up their documentation and you realize, oh, there is no documentation. Oh, the product is even Maya. Oh, this, that, or the other. It's kind of like hard for anyone to trust anyone in crypto at this point. People aren't being objectively honest about the state of the industry, right? So trusting on kind of to AI, you have to kind of prove and have incredibly good products that work. And I don't mean so it's a big challenge, I think. And I think if you're running local, for instance, high frequency trading companies, they care about like millisecond latency. Like, why wouldn't they just run their own models locally? Why would they kind of send a round trip request like in a centralized network that takes 5 to milliseconds or something when they could run it locally? Also, you can run if you know Anthropic and all these OpenAI, they allow you to run your own models in the cloud as well, for where none of the data gets leaked outside of your own instance. So like a lot of companies are opting for that, and that's much more trusted in crypto, right? So I guess what I'm trying to say is like we have a lot of challenges in terms of credibility, and it's not going to be built overnight. You have to kind of really build high value, high quality products that actually work objectively. And you often might have to start in the crypto world before you get that mainstream adoption to show, oh, we've been around for 2 years. Oh, like we haven't gone down. Oh, like we actually like are real and all these things. And I think like in crypto, we tend to want to jump to like 10 steps ahead without actually doing the first 5 to 8, 9 steps to kind of get there. And I think like in terms of institutional adoption, like we need to be more serious in the industry and have like real products that actually really work and things like that. And that's kind of a rainbow, but that's kind of my general thoughts, I guess.
No, I think this is good. It kind of leads to my next question. We can made it. We're back down here, but you mentioned trust, accountability, and one of the themes I came across from kind of preparing for today's panel was around lack of transparency, control over autonomous decision making. So how do we ensure agents behave predictably or ethically when they're executing smart contracts or making economic decisions of their own? How do we design systems, safeguards, or governance models that ensure these agents have predictably and ethically when making decisions?
So I think Andre Karpati really posted something yesterday around verifiability, and that's something that we also did focus on in crypto in general, and it's verifiability. But his verifiability was like more around how can we prove the verifiability, the outputs that are actually true. And that's not really a solved problem, but it's kind of like outlining that if you can solve that problem, we can really scale everything up. There's verifiability on the outputs, but there's also verifiability on the inputs. And that's kind of what a lot of us might be focused on. So for inference, you need verifiability. Well, to kind of match blockchains, like as they are today, you need determinism and verifiability. You need to be able to kind of say, if I execute the state of Ethereum and he does and she does, and we do it all 10 years from now, we all going to come to the same results because we're kind of re-executing. Every output is objectively the same. If you do that with the inference today, you get different outputs. So you need deterministic inference. You need to verify the inference. You need to verify that the input that you put in is actually what's being processed. You need to verify that the output is actually what came from the model. You also need to verify the model itself, just what your deep sold. So I think you need, on the inference level, you need verifiability and determinism. And then on the actual like runtime of the agent, you need to verify that the code that's being run is what is set as being run. And if you have the agent running at runtime and you're using verifiable inference, kind of have verifiability across the stack. So I think that's kind of like one model you need to consider looking at. And that's also what we're focused on at IUCon in general. And we're working with the license through these other things as well.
Maybe I'd add, because, similar domain, thinking about verifiable data, thinking about verifiable models, like the way that you build trust in Web3 is through verifiability and proofs. And so if we can't trust the data that agents are building on top of, and we can't verify with on-chain verifiable proofs what they're doing, then we're never going to build trust in these agents. And they need an immense amount of trust in order to operate autonomously and make decisions on behalf of whoever their creator is in a fully autonomous environment. And so that's kind of like the core of how we've also been getting involved in this space from a data verifiability and being able to have the provenance of your data, being able to trace the on-chain proofs of how that data is getting transformed and edited over time, and being able to do all of that in a transparent, programmable way, direction settled by payments. And so, if you want to join us tomorrow at Deep End Day, we're going to be announcing the Valfine on-chain cloud, which is a new runtime for all of these verifiable on-chain proofs around data provenance, ongoing data storage, and making sure that your data, it is content addressed at the base layer so that you can make sure that it's not being transformed out from underneath you, and then creating model outputs that you didn't intend. Because, right now, to your point, we can't prove the output is correct. We have to prove that the inputs are correct. And so that starts from having trusted data, and that trust comes from proofs.
Yeah, so from zero G side, there's basically slow and fast verification, right? And so for our compute network, which we're doing decentralized inferencing and fine-tuning workloads, we actually use TEEs. We partner with Fala Network for this, and soon Oasis. And what we're doing is we're saying, okay, all this inferencing workloads happen within a TEE, so we know that it has not been tampered with by some external party, right? But then when we talk to other projects that are more data sensitive and, like, for example, military or Department of Defense, what they say is, TEEs are great, but we prefer ZK. And so we also, our marketplace, our compute network is compatible with ZKML, ZK proofs. We can use that as well to verify and to prove these inferencing that's occurring. And then on the agent specifically, Zero-G had to come up with a new ERC standard. It's called ERC 7857, or an intelligent NFT. And this allows us to actually prove ownership of AI agents by linking the agent and the genesis of the agent to the data agent is capping into. So now you're actually able to see what model the agent is capping into. You get to see, who's the actual owner, right? When we create a meme token, right, which Shaw's very familiar with, you just create a contract address and you say, okay, this is a contract address, this is the creator. But when you create an actual agent, especially on chain, it's not that clear on the provenance side of things. So we think the best way to actually prove ownership is to bundle the agent with its data in the form of an INFT. And so this new agent standard was accepted by the ETH Foundation just last week. We actually have a launch pad where you can mint these NFTs. And what we're also doing is saying you can fractionalize these NFTs and you can share revenue and you can share the benefits of owning this agent, for example. So now when you fractionalize NFTs, you're fractionalizing ownership of an actual AI agent. You're not just buying a meme coin, which represents a mind share of an agent. And so verification occurs across the stack. We've done it on the storage side, we've done it on the computing side, and now recently we've done it on this specifically on the agent side. So we're really excited.
That's the big question. Where and how are you storing the data associated with these NFTs? Because, I worked in IPFS during the, 2019, 2020 and like NFT wave. And there's, if you don't content address and have good provenance on the data of your NFTs, you end up with pulled NFTs or NFTs that are just a Cloudflare broken link and, or pointing to whatever folks want. So how are you, let's get into using this?
So for Zero-G has its own storage network. We have what called storage nodes, and he actually re-architected the way decentralized storage occurs. We separated it into a data publishing lane and a data storage lane, and all that is bundled in the storage node. And then basically what we're saying is, okay, all these data packets that come through, if it's for long-term storage like archival data, go ahead, you can do that. But for each fast retrieval, right, even though we're a cold storage network, the data publishing lane allows for fast retrieval of that data. And so it is a fully decentralized storage network. Right now, what we're focused on is like, okay, there's a lot of Web2 audiences using AWS or GCP. How do we get them in? So we're building an AWS connector. We're doing all these type of things, but the actual storage network is our own proprietary storage network, and you can deploy your own storage node to get complete ownership of the data, or you can upload it to other people's storage nodes. And so what we realized is enterprises don't want to run their own nodes. They don't care about that. And so Zero-G Foundation or anybody on the Zero-G network can choose to run the nodes for enterprises, earn revenue, and become a trusted storage node provider. And then they generate real revenue. And so we have a trusted set of storage node providers, and then we have a non-verified, which is just the average retail person who comes to Zero-G and launches a node.
Gotcha. Yeah. That's probably agree. It's what you need. Like, honestly, truly massive amounts of data are what's required for these agents. We've been working with a number of groups that are, not just trading on NFT collections, which might be in like the small hundreds of terabytes, but we have a couple of like large scale institutions. We have CERN that's been storing all of their large hadron collider collect our data on Helpline, and we're talking here exabytes of data. So you need a truly massive community of storage providers that are operating at global scale. And for that, that's kind of what we've been building and implementing for a long time. But you want to connect to that into the AI model so that they can run their trading jobs over the data where it's stored, and then offer kind of the faster inference. And of course, yeah, you need faster table for that. That's what we've been running on one as well.
We're actually staying away from the LLM and data side because I think we're so early in AI security, and very few people realize the massive attack vector it's open up as soon as you include an LLM into your app. And you got to be super careful on how you compartmentalize your application. So what I generally try to do is to try to reduce the impact of malicious dApps. I think that's another way to get to trust. Especially, I think that's one of the blockers for adoption. As now they said, like most of us in crypto, we're kind of hurt children. All of us have been scammed at some point, drop. So that's what I want to reduce. And generally, when I talk to agent builders and users, I try to get like 3 questions across. Like, think about who's running your agents, who's controlling the agent keys, and who can operate the agent. Because if you don't have good answers to those 3 questions, it's not trusted, and I personally would not trust the agent unless I know the T. Because this is not smart contracts. Like, this is just scripts being run somewhere, and this can be changed instantly. So you really have to think all these kind of things.
Not your keys, not your agent.
Yeah, exactly. And anyone that is built, I mean, there were lots of praise paths. It's not that trivial to have a good answer to those questions. Like, where did the keys come from? I guess you created the wallet that gave the private key, so you can control all the funds of this agent. If it's your personal agent, of course, not a problem. But if you want someone else to use this agent, good luck.
And what is your answer to, like, what's the best, I would say, technique to have agent keys that no one has access to in your perspectives?
So I think, I don't know, who knows, the agent Talos, this treasury management agent on Arbitrum, we try to answer the question by it first, who's running the agent that's being executed in a T cloud, so you have the verifiability. Regarding the keys were derived in the key management system. That's where each key manager node is running at a T, and it utilizes MVCs to shard the key freshly. And then the third one is, in my opinion, the most difficult one, and I have seen few projects think about this. We, for example, as some inspiration, have solved this by having a GitHub flow that builds the image that is being hosted in the cloud, and every code change before being actually pushed goes through a governance mechanism. In this case, with Colors, it's a multi-sig code of a committee, and only if approved, then it is being pushed into the cloud, and now the app is being updated. Best case, you also include a kind of implementation delay so that users have time to review what is being voted on, and if they dislike it, even though it was approved, they can withdraw their funds or kind of deactivate the agent for themselves. You can do this with Futaki, for example. I've seen some cool implementations where you have voting on a proposal with investments.
I think everyone here is working on really interesting stuff. We're obviously working with icons and stuff at that. An Oasis integration, we've got a Zero Fee integration, we've got a bottleneck, we've done all stuff. But I do think that there is like a gap between all of this rate infrastructure, which is kind of just like decentralized internet infrastructure. It doesn't really, nothing real time really like agents to, like, it's just like the decentralized web. And then the actual agents that we have today. And like, there's clearly a gap where I have cool agents doing certain things really cool, like go do deep research and span the web and get me back like a research report, and I can have them playing like little games and all kinds of cool stuff. But then like actually interacting with the real world of all the stuff that's going on is like, there's still clearly a gap there. Like, we do not have autonomous agents doing any of this stuff today. We don't have them trading, we don't have them managing. I can have an agent managing a treasury and I have an agent trading, but he's down like $1,000 this month, like, what do you think? Like, he doesn't have magical information. And I think that we like AI is not a magical thing. It's an automation of anything we have the data for. If we have the data for it, we can automate it for sure. But I do think that I think it's your point of like, crypto's not very serious. I think, and it's kind of, you jump to the last part. We all see where this was going. This is going to be like future prediction, AI, AGI, incredible shit. But like, man, I need one agent to like really blow my mind today. Like, just one production ready, slick, it just works. This is deploy.
Codex, Glarma.
Codex, open AI. Like, oh yeah, it's amazing. But of course, but it's a good cursor, Codex, that was odd code. But Lowe's might be mine. Well, you're right. We have PM authority, which is code agents, and now everything else. But that's because we have lots of code data. We just don't have a lot of data of how to like trade well in a new coin or something.
I think that's a huge opportunity for us, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
Very much. Like,
Deal.
this is a huge opportunity to collect that data that we need to train that agent that's going to blow your mind. There's some really interesting work that's happening around data DAOs right now, which is individuals, collectives of people coming together, pooling data that is not accessible in like the large scale training runs right now. We have a number of data DAOs in the Falcon ecosystem who are building women's health data DAOs because we are chronically underrepresented in large scale studies, which means that a lot of our health recommendations are shit for women. And it's amazing because you now have communities that are collecting their Aura data, their Fitbit data. They're sending that back, tagging it with all of the moon information that Aura wants to centralize and keep in their own centralized systems. They're collecting that as individuals and then being able to run their own research studies on top of that data. Soon we'll be running our own agents on top of our own collectivized data, instead of giving all of that data to centralized corporations that they get to own. I also think, like, again, if we're able to assemble a cloud, a decentralized cloud at the scale of, Amazon and Azure and other things, then we have the storage capacity and the compute capacity where we can run our own models and own the output. And we can go and have the resources to put large scale data in that we need to answer these sorts of questions. So if the problem is it's a data problem, I think we have the opportunity to store massive amounts of data that is directly tied to agents that can make it powerful, useful, and monetizable. And so it's all about collecting the large scale data, connecting it to good compute workloads through things like Akash, and then building the agents on top that are harnessing the insights from that data. And I think we have the tools to do that here. I think to do it faster than centralized cloud, and that'd be huge.
Well, well, I mostly agree, but I do want to stipulate that I think that like not all data is equal, and the big problem with agents is that we just don't like that data just does not exist. Like there no human can produce it because the data is actually the thinking that's going on in your head. And what we need is agents in like if I have a simulation with agents or I have like a really popular website where humans are talking to agents, then I can build a continuous reinforcement learning kind of scenario, which is like what OpenAI and Claude and stuff are doing. Now they've been off the races on this. And they're like, I think there are opportunities like in finance, in crypto and decentralized stuff and API access and navigating the decentralized webs, where if we can have agents struggle bust through that and collect and like actually like the reason that Sora is so good and video model so good is because we had a whole generation of just being able to describe images and like really bad models that did that. And as those got good enough, then we could describe images on scale to where we could actually train a video model, right? Because we needed to have the pairing and the images to the text, and that just did not exist until we had a separate model that could even generate that at scale. So like there's there's just steps here, and I think that what I see industry wide is like I would just love to see more people on the the research of the agent that actually does the thing and what that data collection loop is and what the application, like to your point, like is Codex. Codex fucking amazing. It's an amazing application. Like I can code on my phone. Where's the crypto thing of that? Where's the autonomous agent that can like do this for me? And I think you to get there, but I think we have to like build simulations and create this scenario in the environment. And how do we collect and aggregate and train that stuff? So
I think that's going to be awesome. I also want our decentralized version of Mechanical Turk so that we can collect the human data out of human minds and have humans compensated for being owners and creators of that data that does not exist today, and bring that so that you can be powering powerful AI agents based on data that's new and novel, but is uplifting all of the knowledge and skill of individual humans, not just putting agents in simulations, though I think that's a great thing to have as well. Let's also connect all of the power to individuals we have in the world, enable them to create and monetize novel data so that they can run better AI agents over it.
I generally agree with this in theory, and there's companies like Public AI, Fauna, and people who are doing a great work in this. But my issue is that the AI has gotten to a point where it's better than almost all of the humans except for the experts. And so the reality is we get this point where like OpenAI is paying like top dollar for the top engineers in most countries to actually just generate the data. All the data is paid for now. It's not collected from it. Basically, amateur data is not worth anything anymore because the West Nest puts break. And so we're at this point where the only two options are to pay the best people in the world or to have RL models. Like O3 is objectively better than almost every human of almost every task. So the only thing it can do to get better for this point is to train itself. And that's kind of where we're at. Like, it's very saturated. Like, most humans cannot code as well as Claude can.
I'm agree with the coding space, but I think there's a lot of domains where humans are still way better than agents, where given the data that's happening in our brains or in our kind of like understanding of how to interface with the world or how to solve problems, the more that we could make that information accessible to agents, I think you could, maybe not in the coding space, but in other domains have a huge monetizable.
Right. But what's happening is that it's just they're paying the experts because they're like, well, if I'm going to base the one, it's going to pay the best person with that, and that's becoming the most valuable data in the world is expert data. The problem is just like how do we democratize that? I'm skeptical. It's electronic.
Right up.
Well, I'll be honest, that was fascinating. I appreciate it. We're over time. I could talk to you guys all day. This has been one of the better panels I've been part of, and I thank you guys for being a part of it. Can we get a big round of applause for our panelists? Cool. Thank you guys for joining us. Hope you guys have some great desk minutes and enjoy the rest of Agents Day. Thanks, everybody. Thanks.